Welcome to the University of Queensland Ochsner Health MD Program webinar. Today's topic is Meet Our Alumni. My first name is Melanie, and I am the program manager over enrollment and admissions. If you can please put all your questions in the chat, we will hold some of them back to be answered by our panelists at the end. And we will also have Kathy and Ashley answering some as well. All right, Sue, off to you.
Well, thank you, Melanie, and hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar tonight. And this is our first intro slide with this big, giant, rusty UQ on the St. Lucia campus. So I really love seeing that, and hopefully I'll see it in person one day. Okay, Mel, next slide is an intro to our panelist. So I'm Sue Barrosse, Director of Enrollment, and we also have Dr. Brian Cripe here today, and he is in plastic and reconstructive surgery, hand surgery, and microsurgery in Northern Arizona Healthcare. And then we also have Dr. Haley Makuch, who is in her postgraduate year 2 here at Ochsner in OBGYN. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to give a brief overview of our program, and then we're going to turn it over to our alumni physician panelists to talk about their experience. Okay, Melanie. Right, I really love this slide because it shows where we are. It shows where we're located in the world, and we're in New Orleans, except for Ash, who is in Australia, and Dr. Cripe, I think you're probably in Northern Arizona, right? The rest of us are in New Orleans, and there we are. We can see where New Orleans is, but University of Queensland is located in Brisbane, Australia, in the state of Queensland, and it's on the east coast of Australia. It's right kind of almost in the middle, a little bit south of the Great Barrier Reef. So it's really a beautiful picture, and I love seeing where we are in relation to each other. Okay, Mel. All right, so this is a 4-year MD program, and our students spend the first 2 years in Brisbane, Australia at the University of Queensland. We take a small cohort, maybe 90 to 100 students, and our UQ-Ochsner students are mixed in with all the domestic Australian students in that first year incoming class. So you're there for 2 years, and then for year 3 and 4, our UQ-Ochsner cohort comes to New Orleans, and you rotate through your clinical immersions at Ochsner facilities, but there are also electives that you have to go wherever you would like to go, and you have support for that with your program managers that will help you in obtaining your clinical immersions elsewhere. This is geared toward U.S. residencies, so you will be ECFMG certified, and you're able to practice in all 50 states and Australia as well upon graduation. Okay. So this is a partnership between 2 powerhouses. The University of Queensland was founded in 1910, I believe, and the medical school in 1936. Ochsner was founded in 1942. So this is several decades of prestige for both entities who really participate well in their community and are known for the quality of work that they do. So for University of Queensland, it says top 50 global university. So it's not just top 50. If you were to go to U.S. News and World Report to look up global universities, you'd find the University of Queensland is listed, I think, at 42. So out of the world, that's pretty impressive to come in at that low number to be rated by or ranked by U.S. News and World Report. It reports as such a high standing university. 5 faculties, we say schools here, so that's the different types of schools like engineering and our medical schools. So 5 different schools that are housed there. And something we really bonded on with University of Queensland was research. So research is embraced greatly by both entities. Many of our students participate in research, and us being a teaching hospital here in New Orleans for so many decades, certainly research is embraced here as well. If you've ever been in New Orleans, you'll see Ochsner's name is all over. There's many Ochsner hospitals and health centers, urgent care centers throughout New Orleans, and they're a great community leader and community servant. Okay, Mel. All right, so let's talk a little bit about match. Anyone that's going to med school is spending a lot of time and money and effort to do well in medical school. And then matching is the ultimate, right? You're going to really want to match into a good program. So let's talk about our match rate. This is actually my favorite slide because I'm going to direct you all the way to the last column that says non-US IMG. That means international medical graduate. So anyone graduating with an MD degree from the University of Queensland is going to be an international medical graduate. And as you can see that column, the percentages for matching, they're not that great, right? So this year, 58% chance of matching if you hold a degree from anywhere outside of the United States. So let's look at the different 10 years that we have showing here. The number of positions are far less than the number of applications. So we can see right off that thousands of medical students will not be able to match. And no one wants to be in that group, right? So let's look at our other numbers. The MD seniors, that is the US match rate for anyone attending a US medical school. That's the percentage for matching throughout the years, and this year it was 93.5. But then I'll direct you to my favorite column, the one that's bolded, which is the University of Queensland Ochsner Program. And as you can see, this program is consistently has a high match rate, even since the beginning of when this program started, has always been in the 90th percentile. And if you look closely, you will see that 7 of these past 10 years, UQ-Ochsner has surpassed the MD seniors, the US match rate. I know it's close, but we're still surpassing. So I just think that's a testament to both the entities and especially Ochsner being here in the States and having so many decades of being a prestigious teaching clinical school that has very impressive training for our students. And the clinical immersions that you receive here are really fantastic. So our students always really perform very well in the match. So although you're included in that last group, the non-US IMGs, you should not have any concerns about matching because this has been solid, consistent since the beginning of our school. Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about our entry requirements. When Ochsner and Queensland came together, they wanted to create an ease of applying. So, ready, Mel? Okay, so one of our requirements, MCAT, we need an MCAT from you, and we have a hard cutoff. It's a 504. So we're looking for an MCAT score 504 or higher. If you have less than that, we cannot progress your application. We'd ask you to retake the MCAT. And to us, it does not matter how many times you take the MCAT, as long as one of those times is 504 or higher. We're not looking at the section scores. We're just looking at that straight composite score to be 504 or higher. Say you're not able to attain that, but you're still interested. You can always still roll over your application to the next cycle if you don't have time to retake in the same cycle, and we're happy to roll your application over and keep it viable until you have time to prepare and study for your next MCAT. Okay, our next criteria will be GPA. So we're looking for an A or B GPA. So in the US, that's a 3.0 or higher GPA, and that's the minimum. If it's less than a 3.0, you might still apply because still a B minus is still a B. we don't know where it's going to fall in the range, but Queensland has a 7.0 scale. So once they translate that, they'll let you know if you fall into that A or B range. And then this GPA is calculated on your key degree. A key degree is your most recently obtained degree. So this is not a cumulative GPA. It's going to be just that composite score on your transcript for your most recently obtained degree. So for example, if you finished a bachelor's and started a master's, you're not finished the master's, so they would calculate that GPA just on your bachelor's. If you were finished the master's, then the GPA would be calculated just on your master's. It does not include post-bac coursework, community coursework. It's just the GPA that's included on that most recently obtained transcript. Okay, once you have those two in place, you can be considered for an interview. So we have multiple mini interviews here. These are becoming more and more popular for medical schools. Multiple mini interviews assess you on your personality. So, for instance, kindness and compassion. And how do you relate to people, your communication skills. So we have 8 10-minute interviews all in a row, and they're managed on Zoom. So if I were your interviewer, I'd share my screen. It's scenario-based. You would have time to read that, collect your thoughts, and then time to answer as well. And then you move right on to your next interviewer assessing a different personality domain. Okay, Melanie. Okay, now let's look at how our physicians perform after they finish medical school and they're in their workplace where they've matched. So we're going to look at postgraduate year 1. So this is from comprehensive from the start of our first class that's been in that's graduated up until 2022 who have finished in their first year of residency. We send out questionnaires to everywhere where our students have matched and to get results on how they're performing. So we're really impressed that if you look at the top half, 88% of our students rank into the top half, and that is from their employer where they're matched, giving us a review on their work and how they're performing. So we're really proud of our students that go on into their residency and perform so well. Okay. All right. So I'm finished. We're going to have Q&A after, but as Melanie said, you could start entering your questions in the chat box right now, and we'll get to those as well. And I think we can stop sharing the screen, and we're going to turn this over to Dr. Brian Cripe in Arizona. Dr. Cripe, thanks for joining us. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your experiences?
I'm absolutely happy to be here. Yeah, so I'm Dr. Brian Cripe. I'm a plastic and reconstructive surgeon in Flagstaff, Arizona. So my practice here is a comprehensive mix of reconstructive and some cosmetic surgery as well. I'm also the department chair at Northern Arizona Healthcare for the section of plastics, ENT, and ophthalmology, and run the limb salvage program there as well. I'm originally from Midland, Michigan. I did undergraduate at Michigan State and graduate school at University of Miami before, and actually worked for a few years before I ended up joining the UQ-Ochsner program. I came into the program through kind of a little bit of an interesting pathway. It's something that when I started undergrad was planning on doing medicine, and then ultimately changed some goals and things as a result, but kind of came back full circle as a result of some time I spent doing some work with some aid projects internationally. And that's part of what the appeal was for UQ-Ochsner as well. I was really interested in that international medical experience and some opportunities they had at that time that were very unique to this program as far as the ability to spend some time in disadvantaged communities and overseas and get some early access to that type of healthcare experience. Ultimately, after I completed my time at Ochsner, I matched at Virginia Tech Carilion for integrated plastic surgery training program, which I'd selected because actually initially I was planning on doing orthopedic surgery and did some rotations and sub-I rotations and things in that, and happened to have sort of a chance encounter with plastic surgery. with actually a faculty at Ochsner, an ENT plastics faculty, who unfortunately I think is retired and no longer there. But kind of working with him and seeing the application and the problem solving and complexity involved in head and neck reconstruction really kind of it really just clicked well for me. It brought the things that I'd liked from orthopedic trauma, the complexity and variety, as well as some of the the challenges and problem solving and things that and creativity that I really liked about some of these other aspects. And so that's really what brought me into plastics. I ended up out here in Flagstaff because um, it's plastics is a little interesting in that it's an extremely broad spectrum. You have people obviously on the one side, kind of the stereotypical plastic surgeon everyone thinks of, who is just doing cosmetic surgery. There's certainly a lot of people who go that route because it is, a little feels a little more lucrative and things for patients, for people who are going into it. But plastics also encompasses hand surgery, reconstructive microsurgery. So there's a huge variety in what you can do. And I came here because I wanted a practice that was diverse, that I could do honestly a little bit of everything. I wanted to be at a level one trauma center, which is what we have here. We have a pretty diverse and interesting trauma population. And so it kind of lets me have a pretty broad spectrum of my practice and what I get to do and the patients and things that I interact with. So it's been a great setting to be in. And also largely picked it because if you've ever been to Flagstaff, it's a fantastic place to live. Despite being Arizona, it really feels more like Western Colorado. We're up at about 7,000 feet, and so we have kind of world-class mountain biking. We have skiing in town. So there's not very many places that you can be on call and still go skiing. So it's kind of a nice perk for being here too. Um, let's see. So what's a typical, sorry, I have a list of things here. So what's a typical day like? So my practice, like I said, is pretty varied. I typically operate usually 4 days a week. And then mixed in with that is some clinic. We have our own surgery center, as well as operating at the hospital here. And then I see patients in a neighboring town in Sedona, and operate the breast center there as well. I'm in a multi-physician group, and so some of my partners do operate in other cities as well, because we're pretty much all the coverage for the entire northern half of the state. So my days, can be a big variety. For example, today I did a microsurgical limb salvage case in the morning, and then a functional rhinoplasty for a patient, revision for breast reconstruction, and then a kind of complex hand surgery patient. So you get to, have a lot of range and variety in things, and that's kind of what I like about what I get to do here. As far as the experience with going through the training at UQ and Ochsner, I think it was a fantastic experience. I think that for people who are open to exploring differences in the way that healthcare is administered, and the experiences and things and opportunities that you have through that, I think it's fantastic. Certainly, everybody's aware that we have a lot of challenges with the healthcare systems here in the U.S. And certainly, any day that I have to deal with insurance companies is frustrating because as everybody's seen kind of the famous videos and things, and I've had those exact same experiences of having patients in the operating room and fighting with insurance companies about procedures and things. And so seeing the way that the system functions there in Australia is interesting, certainly from a state-run system. But the quality of healthcare there is fantastic. There's excellent practitioners. The teaching there really gave us a great hands-on experience. And we were in the hospitals seeing patients during our first year, which is pretty unique to have. And the way that they structured things really gives you a good framework to hang that knowledge base onto. On top of that, we got good exposure to, if you're interested in kind of healthcare disparities and other opportunities along those lines, both with Indigenous healthcare in Australia, as well as I spent 6 weeks in northern India between my first and second years at a remote hospital up there. Was able to do a lot in that setting. And so, the opportunity to be able to do some of those things is really unique. And I know that they've expanded that. Classmates were able to go to Haiti and do other things like that. And that's something I've been able to keep with my practice as well, and been able to do some international aid work. And so actually really, I think, and UQ set a good foundation for that as a good opportunity. And that was certainly one of the things that attracted me to the program as well when I came through. As far as other things, as far as research, I certainly did participate in research in medical school and in residency. It's unfortunately a necessary evil, but especially for competitive specialties. While I was at the University of Queensland, I did research with Kevin Tetzworth, who's an orthopedic trauma surgeon there, on some of the limb salvage work they did. And then I worked with sports medicine primarily in orthopedics when I was at Ochsner. and a number of studies there involving things ranging from tranexamic acid use and pain control for knee scope patients and wear characteristics for knee implants. But there's certainly a lot of good opportunities. My roommates in med school, one of them was involved in the animal labs doing studies on hepatic tumors, and the other was doing perfusion study work. And so there's certainly a lot of good opportunities that people had, and we were able to kind of all get into competitive specialties because we had good research experience. My research in residency kind of shifted into other areas, primarily involved in peripheral nerve surgery. But it does lay a good foundation. Ochsner certainly has a strong reputation as a research institution, and there's a lot of good opportunities that are there as well, if that's something that you are interested in, going down that pathway. As far as the student government as well, I was very involved. I was in the third class to go through the program, so we were still in the learning phases, and they were figuring things out a little bit in some ways. And so we had a very active role in kind of shaping the program and where it went. So I was the class president for 4 years, as well as the president of the Oxford Medical Student Association, which I think gave a good opportunity to have a strong voice in what the program is doing, the structure of that, the opportunities that were being framed and offered for us. And so the faculty and everyone was certainly very receptive, and I was very positive about working with that. And a lot of those same faculty I worked with are still there working at Ochsner in medical education. So it's certainly always nice to see that those folks are still around and still have that prominent role in the section. As far as kind of contact with other classmates, certainly I do have a lot of classmates that we still are in close contact with and talk to on a fairly regular basis. It's always interesting to kind of be able to share experiences and pick each other's minds about different things that are going on, as well as the social relationships that we make. And those certainly have lasted through for a long time since going through training. It's a wonderful foundation and a great way to have that very unique experience during during that training and education programs. As far as living in Brisbane, it's a fantastic place to live. As foreign countries go, Australia is pretty easy. If you get over driving on the wrong side of the road and speaking, being separated by a common language, it's really a pretty easy spot to get around. Brisbane's a beautiful city. It's a lovely campus. It's a great area to get around, and there's a lot of fun stuff to do while you're over there also. Really enjoyed living there, and the educational opportunities and the setup and things there is excellent. They have wonderful facilities. Some multiple different training facilities and things throughout the city as well, but they're all set up very well, and we certainly are welcomed by our colleagues in Australia. New Orleans as well is a fantastic place, both to live and to train. Ochsner obviously is a massive medical system in the state, and they really have a lot of fantastic opportunities for medical students and the education. And it varies even as well from beyond the experiences that you have when you're really at the large main campuses where there's a lot of residents and other people like that, to the opportunities you get at satellite campuses where you're often one-on-one with the physicians who are working in those areas. And so you get a lot of really unique, interesting opportunities that a lot of medical students don't get afforded when you're kind of largely at one large main center where you may just kind of be, one of a handful of students at all times and things, as opposed to having those one-on-one opportunities, which really can give you access to patients and learning in a way that you don't get in a lot of other settings. And so those opportunities are certainly were wonderful and added a lot to my education while I was at Oxnard. And certainly New Orleans obviously is a fun place to live. Even if you've ever visited there, living there is a whole different thing. It's a unique city. It's got its own fantastic character. I was actually back about a month ago for a conference in New Orleans, and it was still fun to kind of see the things about the city that you kind of fall in love with while you're there. It's got a great character, and it's really a wonderful, lovely place to live. As far as, let's see, other things on here, managing work, life balance during medical school, certainly there's a lot of good opportunities for that. And your classmates really become your best support system in a lot of ways too. You're all kind of going through the same things together. But that meant in Brisbane, I mean, trips out to the beach and surfing and, lots of trips to explore in Australia and the areas around there with classmates and friends, and the same thing around New Orleans and Louisiana and that area. There's a lot of fun things that you can do and ways to get out and really enjoy that. And kind of embed yourself and really, feel like you're part of the city, and really have those experiences that, you don't feel like you're just existing in a place, but you can really, get a feel for what it's like to be part of that community and to have a role within that. As far as the training and things, I think I already said earlier, I think that we were, extraordinarily well trained. I know that I, came into residency, and I feel like that, my skill set and ability and things at that point was beyond a lot of other, first year residents, because we did have a lot of hands-on time, and particularly, like I said, those satellite hospitals and things too, is that you go to a lot of places and you sort of go into the operating room and you'll see that it's, an attending doing the case with a fellow watching them and a chief resident watching them and another resident watching them and the medical students kind of crowded on the end of the table. And I mean, whereas like when I was at Ochsner and at the other Ochsner hospitals, I mean, you were scrubbed in, you were doing things during surgeries. I mean, you were getting your hands dirty. And so I think that's an important experience to have, that you can really, you can come out feeling confident in dealing with patients and, figuring out how to be an active learner, and really get the most out of your medical education. As far as who makes a good candidate for the program, I think that really, it has challenges that other programs don't have because I mean you're going to live in a foreign country, you're going to manage, dealing with those changes and things. But I think that those things also really give you the chance to really grow individually, and like I said, get exposed to other healthcare systems and other areas and other disparities, and the way that those programs can be run and administered. And I think it prepares you well for kind of the changing future of healthcare in the U.S. And so I think that as long as you have the skill set to be able to navigate that and to really make the most out of that, I think it really sets you up very well for future career success.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cripe, for really hearing about your experiences, and congratulations on all your success. We're really very proud of you. Um, and now we're going to hear from Dr. Haley Makuch. So, Dr. Makuch, are you ready to talk about your experiences?
Yeah, so my name's Haley. I'm a PGY2 in OBGYN at Ochsner right now. I grew up in a really small town in Connecticut. No one in my family really did anything medical. But when I was in college, I went to the College of Holy Cross in Worcester, Massachusetts. I was just more drawn to more of my kind of science healthcare classes, and knew I kind of wanted to do something in healthcare. I was actually a nurse's aide in college for a good bit of time, and really loved the like patient-facing experience of medicine. And then I also worked after college at a couple different hospitals in Boston, at Dana-Farber, and gynecologic oncology, just as a clinical research coordinator, and then also at Mass Eye and Ear for a facial plastics department as a medical assistant. So I kind of knew I wanted to do something in healthcare, but didn't apply to medical school right after. And then when it was time to apply, I was kind of in between cycles when I decided to apply. And my mentor at Holy Cross had told me about this program that I was kind of right in line for applying for as far as the timeline went. And I spoke with a student who went there that I happened to have a friend of a friend with. And we really just kind of hit it off. And he told me all about the program and what an amazing time he was having in Australia. And I was pretty kind of hooked from the beginning. I chose OBGYN. Primarily, I'd like to do, have a good mix of clinic, surgery, but also like a good longevity of care with your patients. So it kind of had all of those things. OB is a little bit of like organized chaos, and I kind of like to like live my life like that. So the labor floor is kind of where I have the most fun. You could, have 10, 15 deliveries in a day, or people coming in the OB/ED just delivering from their cars, crash C-sections, just a whole bunch of different things that you can see. So I was really drawn to that in medical school, and I think it was my second or third rotation. So I knew pretty early on that I was interested in OB. I applied all over. I didn't feel quite ready to go like back to New England, and I really enjoyed my time at Ochsner. I felt like a large part of the staff really was interested in teaching. We have a very large MFM department and gyne oncology department as well. We have about 11 MFMs and 5, 6. We're getting a couple new gyne oncologists here. So a lot of them are very into teaching. We have a few fellows for MFM, but they're not on service all the time. So the residents are still able to perform, they do most of the inpatient work and are like the first assist in all the surgeries. So I really enjoyed how much teaching there was when I was a student, and I just felt like I really got along with the residents here. Um, Additionally, it sounds like a negative, but Louisiana is like the 49th most unhealthy state in the US, which is really great for learning opportunities, but also just finding a patient population that you can really try and help beyond the walls of the hospital. So, I kind of felt like if I trained here, and I do, think I may want to stay here, but if not, I would be well trained to kind of go anywhere after training here, just because of how sick our patients are. And just a good opportunity for kind of patient outreach and different things in the community. So I wanted to stay at Ochsner, and that is where I ended up. And then let's see. So for me, a typical day is kind of all over the place as a resident. We have mostly like inpatient services. We have a couple clinic blocks, but not much. So we're typically like a 12, 14-hour day, running either the labor floor or GYN oncology service. We work every other weekend. So we get a golden weekend and then work every other weekend of the month, which is very standard for this specialty. So really it can be anything, mostly surgeries, but otherwise just kind of running the labor floor. I think, I echo a lot of what Dr. Cripe said, that the experience training in 2 different continents and 2 different countries is really extraordinary. They have a very different healthcare system, as y'all know, and just being able to kind of learn in that system and get a really early exposure to like see patients in the hospital, like he said, as a first year medical student, I think was very impactful in my learning. For research, similarly, there's plenty of opportunity for research both at UQ and at Ochsner. As a med student, I probably did the most with resident projects in obstetrics because I wanted to do that early on. As a resident here, we have a big like weed symposium that everyone has to present in as a second, third, and fourth year. So we're all kind of preparing for that now. A lot of us have sent in different kind of projects, whether they be just abstracts or kind of full-blown publications to SMFM, which is our MFM kind of society that's coming up, or a couple people presented also for gyn-onc conferences in urogynecology. So there's definitely good opportunity for research at Ochsner as well. I did participate in the student government. I was the Ochsner, I think liaison coordinator was the title, but I primarily tried to kind of bridge the gap between 3rd and 4th year, second and 3rd year, especially because when I was there, it was kind of the height of COVID. So there wasn't as much opportunity for like the 4th years were not able to come back at that time to visit Australia. So just kind of coordinating how to better connect the students in New Orleans and in Brisbane. But I had a really great time. A lot of the people that I worked with, again, are still doing stuff over at Ochsner. So I do run into them a whole bunch at work, which is nice. I am very much in contact with my classmates. Unfortunately, residency is a little hard to plan a trip out there, but I'm hoping to do a nice big one after I graduate. But it's really great. They, a lot of them are, the residency experience is a little bit different in Australia. So you don't match into what you want to do right away. You kind of do a whole bunch of rotations again. So it's kind of fun seeing my friends decide what they are kind of going to end up into. I had really an incredible time living both in Brisbane and New Orleans. I think they're very different cities, but they offer a lot of the same benefits. I think in Brisbane, you couldn't really get better with the location, the access to the outdoors and everything. Our facilities, like Dr. Cripe said, were really amazing. There was several different libraries that you can study in, and the campus was, it was very big, but beautiful. And there was, a science building, a different, I think like 4 different libraries on the campus that you could study in. So, Brisbane in general was amazing. We like I I was there during lockdown, so I wish I could have traveled a little bit more, but I was able to go back my 4th year and kind of travel a little bit, and it's a really great city. Same in New Orleans. I think a lot of people think of it as this kind of crazy city and like Mardi Gras and everyone's going insane, but it really is a different experience when you live here. You find kind of your favorite spots. It's a really nice kind of small city that you run into the same people all the time, and end up having a lot of just local friends that are not in medicine, which I would suggest for anyone. I think it's really good for your day-to-day life. But again, I think it's a really great place to practice medicine and to learn. And there's no, shortage of patients to see here. Let's see. Managing stress, work-life balance. I think it's really easy to do in both of these cities. I am a sporty kind of person, so I played soccer both in Australia and here, so I'm on a few different teams. And just there's a lot of different outdoor activities you can do here. Like there's different run clubs, different things like that. So that's how I like to relieve stress. There's plenty of other things you can do in New Orleans, but that's kind of my top thing. I do think having a good support system, whether or not they're in medicine or not in medicine, is the most important thing you can have, both in med school and residency. So I highly advocate for that. And I think just who makes a good candidate, I think, it takes a certain person that's kind of drawn to a type of program like this, because it's a big move to go across the world and kind of start your life fresh with a whole bunch of strangers. So I think if you're willing to do that, just be open-minded. And if you have one of those adventurous kind of personalities, I think it's a really, really great fit. And I feel like I was very, very well prepared for residency. We took our kind of exam halfway through our intern year, I think. Scored above average for like all the interns in the US for OBGYN. So I felt well prepared, and I kind of, that was a good signifier that from both my schooling and UQ at Ochsner, that it prepares you well for residency.
Thank you so much, Dr. Makuch and Dr. Cripe. We do have a few questions. This one is for Dr. Cripe. It's an anonymous attendee asked, what was your experience matching into plastics as an IMG, and what did you do to set yourself up for success?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Certainly at the point where I matched into it, it was almost unheard of. I honestly don't know the actual numbers, but I know that looking back the few years before I'd matched in, no IMGs matched into plastics. So certainly it is it's considered an uphill battle at that point. Ochsner the UQ-Ochsner program was relatively new at that point too, and so it didn't really have a reputation established for itself. And ultimately, I mean, what worked for me, and I was able to still interview at a lot of different places, and it's actually matched to my top choice. But I think that really what it came down to was the same thing it comes down to, honestly, for a lot of people in competitive specialties, which is that, having people that who can reach out and make connections and things on your behalf is enormously helpful. In my case, was one of my mentors at Ochsner, who was in general surgery, but was able to reach out to, he happened to know, what got me my interview at the program I ultimately matched at, reached out to somebody who was there that he knew from training and was able to kind of make a connection and things. And it was kind of the similar thing at some of the other places, is that, a lot of it is reaching out and getting those connections and things. And that's really what helps you both get interviews and to match really in competitive specialties. Having gone through the other side of things, interviewing potential residents to join the program that I was at, with those specialties, once you get, for something like plastics or orthopedic surgery or dermatology or something of that, the highly competitive specialties, everyone who wants to do it applies to every program in the country. Everybody has good scores. Everybody has good research. Everybody has good letters of recommendation and things. And so, a lot of it is those opportunities and connections that you can make really do go a long way. And so that's really what I was able to do that facilitated things. Since the time that I was there, the plastic surgery section at Ochsner has grown significantly. I think there was only one plastic surgeon who was full-time at Ochsner plus ENT plastics, and now there's looks like 5 or 6. I think last time I looked at it, and so certainly there's opportunities there as well to kind of make those connections and things too, and try to get people to bridge those gaps. But a lot of it is, I mean, in any whether you go to this program or anywhere you go, it's going to be the same things that you have to do, which is that you have to be impressing people on your rotations, and reaching out and talking to people, and honestly, I mean, asking them, if there's somewhere you're interested in, or if there's somewhere that you think might be a good fit, or if there's somewhere they think might be a good fit for you. I mean, talk to them about where they trained, what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, if there's people who are still there that they could put you in contact with or make connections for you, because that's really what gets you in the door for those competitive specialties to get in a match there.
Thank you so much for such a strong answer. This question is for both of you guys. Liana asks, looking back since you graduated, what's the biggest change you've seen at the school? Dr. Makuch, you want to take that first?
I'm sorry, you cut out at the end. What was it? The biggest change to what?
The biggest change you've seen at the school.
At UQ or at Ochsner? Or maybe both?
I think at UQ-Ochsner. Yeah, both.
I don't know. I graduated just a couple years ago. And I think the rotation seemed to be very similar to me from like a student standpoint, all rotating at Ochsner. I know some of the grading has changed recently. I think both UQ and Ochsner are now moving towards a pass-fail system, which a lot of the previous US medical student or medical schools had been doing. So I think it's kind of more in line with the rest of the applicants that you'll be kind of pooled with when you're doing interviews and things like that. But other than that, I don't know of any like big overarching changes that I'm aware of.
Thank you so much. Dr. Cripe?
Yeah, it's been a little longer since I was there. Since I graduated in 2014. But no, I know from being back there and talking to faculty and things, there've obviously been some change and new people have come in there, but some of the people who were there when I trained as well, are still in the program in various roles. And so it certainly is nice to see there's some of that continuity and that same vision and commitment to student growth and well-being. Being in New Orleans recently as well, I mean, to see the expansion. I mean, Ochsner was already a large hospital when I was there, but it's expanded significantly since that time. The student buildings and spaces there and things have expanded and grown quite a bit as well, which I think is, I mean, a good testament to the ongoing commitment that they have to making sure that students have the best possible experience there, and have all the resources they need to really be successful.
Thank you, Dr. Cripe. And then I just want to remind you guys to put your questions in the chat, and I will happily ask our panelists them. In the meantime, what was your guys' favorite rotation and why? Dr. Cripe, we'll start with you.
The tough question, probably. Certainly I think that one of the great things I think when you're going through medical school is that even if there are things that you don't think that, or that you're not going to go into, you can still learn a lot from it, and there's lessons and things that you can take from those areas. And I think that as long as you're interested and participating in things, you're always going to gain something from all of those. So even though, I mean, there's going through things like I knew early on that I was going to go into a surgical specialty. But I mean, despite that, doing family medicine or other things, or OBGYN or other, I mean, you still learn a lot. And there's always things you can take away from those different areas. I think there's probably, one of my favorite experiences that I had, like I said, is spending time on kind of a pseudo-elective rotation in northern India was really incredible. We were in the Himalayan foothills in a really remote small hospital there, and we're able to be very actively involved in providing healthcare to a very isolated area of the world. And so it was really, I mean, an incredible opportunity to kind of be immersed in the community there and to really be kind of on the front lines of dealing with healthcare needs in these extremely remote populations, and so that really impacted me quite a bit and laid a framework for kind of ongoing aid work that I do.
Thank you so much. Dr. Makuch, what was your favorite rotation? Why?
I think I talked enough about the OB rotation and why I liked it. One of my other more favorite rotations that I was on was it was for general practice, like a family medicine rotation my 4th year at the it was kind of a newer like continuity like PCP clinic out of Ochsner. So it was a resident or a med student / resident run clinic. There was a couple physicians in there. And we didn't see many patients a day. We saw maybe like 5 or 6, but the day would be like 12 hours long because we spent maybe 2.5 hours with each patient. And it really, you know, taught me a lot about social determinants of health. And I think it was a large part of the reason why I wanted to stay in New Orleans, because we just, we talked a lot about people's past medical history, but we also talked about being able to like afford food and housing, and then actually we're the ones finding those resources, not just kind of messaging or emailing our social worker. Like we were the social worker and we were the pharmacist. We were packing all their pills from the pharmacy and giving them to them. So it was just a really kind of eye-opening experience. And I think one of the main reasons why I stayed in New Orleans.
Thank you so much. That just speaks to, UQ and Ochsner's dedication to our patients. Liana asked a bunch of questions for us. So she asked, how has your global Australia plus the US training shaped your approach to medicine? Would anyone like to take that one?
I think kind of as what I was just speaking of, I think, I have still a ways to go, but I think I would like to practice with a very specific kind of patient population that's a little sicker or not typically the patients who you would see in private practice. I kind of see myself in the future in academics and wanting to work with residents and students. And I think largely that's because of the experiences I had just being in the hospital very early as a student in Australia. And the great experiences I've had with not only the OB residents, but the residents and all the different specialties I rotated in at Ochsner. So I just, see myself working in a certain kind of, I think, setting for kind of for my future practice.
Thank you so much, Dr. Makuch, for taking that one. So I guess this one's for Dr. Cripe. How did you find the transition from preclinical in Australia to clinical years in New Orleans?
Yeah, I think that, for us, it was a pretty smooth transition. And really, I think that comes down to both the structure of the education and the fact that we had a lot of early patient experience and time in the hospitals. So the courses are there done in sort of a problem-based learning. And so really everything's framed around kind of problems and individual patients and how those can be identified and treated, and using that as the framework to kind of hang on all of the other things that you need to do or you need to learn during medical school. I mean, the pathology and microbiology and everything else that you're doing. And so, I mean, that framework certainly is helpful for thinking about things like a clinician. But then being there and being in a hospital, I mean, starting in your first year and then regularly in your second year, really, I think makes that transition to clinical experience a lot easier. Because I mean, as you go into your third year, and obviously, like your teaching is all taking place in the hospital setting for the most part, and so being comfortable in that setting, understanding how to interact with patients, how to function in those areas, how to be able to find the information and things that you need, is really a skill set that you need to have be successful in those settings. And so I think that we're set up well for that transition.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cripe. That's a great answer. All right, Liana also asked, looking back, what do you wish you'd known before starting at the UQ-Ochsner program? So Dr. Makuch, we'll start with you.
Let's see. I don't know that there's much about the curriculum itself. I probably would have looked more into research at UQ. It's a very, very robust like academic center, and I probably was tuned into that a little too late, like towards the end of my second year, so didn't get as much experience as I would have liked to. Probably not for lack of advertising, probably I just was not as in tune to it and doing other things, but that is something that I probably would have looked more into going back if I were to, reapply.
Thank you. Dr. Cripe, do you want to take that question as well?
Sure. So, I think that when I was coming into it, it was a newer program. It's obviously, well established now and has a lot of residents who've been all over the country, which opens up a lot of doors and things too for, future students going places. And certainly at that point, as we came into it, and I think there was a learning point for myself and for the program is because we kind of felt like the program wasn't, yes, we're technically international graduates, but it's international graduates of a different standard than what you see with kind of the stereotypical, Caribbean, Central American school type of thing. And you're coming from a top university in the world, coming from an amazing teaching hospital in the US. I mean, at the point that I was there, I don't know if it's still the case, but at least at that point, over I think it was like half of LSU's students and a third of Tulane students were educated at Ochsner as well. So they have a strong foundation in medical education. But I think that there were some challenges with applying to residency and things as an international student for competitive specialties that, they weren't totally prepared for and aware of because nobody had really done it at that point, that I was going through that. And so, it was a little bit of, you know, laying the train tracks as we're going along. But it does seem like from talking to other students who've been through the program and faculty and things who were there as well, I think that that's really been ironed out, and the program has is established and has a good reputation. The residents who are coming out of there, are smart and skilled and well trained, and or it's students who are coming out of there. I mean, to go into residencies are, and so I think that that's it's established itself as certainly a strong institution, a strong training program. But I think that going into things when it was relatively new, that was probably the biggest challenge.
Thank you for sharing that, because you both have such a unique perspective going through the program. All right, just in the interest of time, this is going to be my last question, but it's my favorite question to ask. What are you most proud of as a UQ-Ochsner student? Dr. Cripe, you want to start this time?
Certainly. I mean, I think that looking at where the program is now, especially from where it was when I started with things, I'm proud of the impact that I was able to have and my fellow kind of earlier classmates and things on shaping the program and developing it to where it is. I mean, we were able to we had very receptive faculty at UQ and at Ochsner who were able to really listen to what our needs were and what we felt like was going to be important to position us to be both competitive and successful as we went forward into residency and into our careers. And they really, put a lot of effort and things into making sure that that happened. And so to be able to come out of the program and be able to be an ambassador for it and an advocate for it, I think has been something I'm very proud of, because I think that it is a unique program and it does produce really talented graduates. The people I know who've come out in the years, behind me as well, that I've kept in touch with, who were classes behind me, who've, and my classmates who've had extremely successful careers in a lot of different areas and all over the country, I think are a testament to the quality of education that it provides.
Thank you so much. Dr. Makuch, what are you most proud of as a UQ-Ochsner student?
I would say probably both the connections that I've made with my Australian classmates that have been, very strong, and it's been really wonderful to see kind of where everyone has ended up. I think I feel really proud for, not only myself, but a lot of work that the, students, I actually go to Ochsner with a lot of UQ graduates from different years. But I think it's really great to see where everyone's kind of ended up and all the stuff that they do just in New Orleans for the community that's outside of residency. And I think that was really enforced to us kind of early on in Australia. We had talked about it a little while ago, but it was, talking about, learning more about social determinants of health and the Indigenous populations in Australia was really early on there. And we just got more of that teaching at Ochsner. So I think, I'm proud to see all the kind of outreach that my fellow graduates are doing.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, panelists. I'm going to put up my last slide for our students. And then thank you guys so much for joining this evening. It's been amazing. And please don't forget to join us next month for Meet Our Leaders, where the leaders of our medical school will be joining us. But thank you guys so much. Thank you, panelists. Thank you for everyone that attended, and have a great evening.